I like my job, and I've been a mental health nurse for it's more than 40 years, so I'm not going to give my age away. September last year, I was walking my dog and she happened to pick a fight with another dog. During that fight, I intervened and I was bitten by either of the dogs, I don't know which. As a consequence of that, I contracted sepsis with quite a virulent bacteria. Essentially went into shock, lots of organ failure, and the result of all that is what they call a quad amputation. All of my life I've been very independent. I never felt as if I'd lose it. I always just thought, and I still do, it's something you're constantly working towards. My wife's the gardener, not me. I used to do the heavy jobs. Yeah, the carer thing is quite important. I think the big thing for Anne has always been, if I know the help's there and how to access it, then that makes me feel better already. When I was considered to be medically fit before I was actually discharged, this rather nice man called Nadeem turned up, and he explained that he was the hospital social worker. He explained the concepts of social care. As soon as we started the assessment, it was obvious that we were also going in a direction.
What makes me proud about working within the hospital setting is having the opportunity to work with hospital OTs, physiotherapists, doctors, working with the individual to meet that individual's need collectively. Crucially, the individual is the heart of the work that we do.
The right services were put in place in a very caring way. Nadeem was the hub. Essentially, it did feel like a joined-up approach.
I think Julian naturally is a confident man, and I think it was about trying to ensure that we harness that positivity that Julian has. The strategy offers us opportunity to work with individuals around their needs and promote their confidence and independence, and allows them structure and control to think about the services that they want and how they want to live independently within the community.
All the services that I need have been provided and I feel well cared for. The difference that adult social care has made is the difference between being in an institution and being miserable and being at home and being happy.
My life was a bit of a struggle. I've always wanted to do things like be out and about, meeting new people. Basically, my head was all over the place.
I started working with Shane in May 2017. His social worker in the transitions team referred him to the Knots Enabling Service. I know that Knots Enabling Service have changed Shane's pathway for the better. His social worker told me that he was planning to commission 2 days of day services for Shane. And now what we have is someone who's happy with their life, working hard, getting paid, and for those other 5 days a week not being bored, sat at home.
Ever since me and Aidan have been talking, ever since I've called him my brother, he's shown me some good skills, he's a nice lad. I can't have no one better than him, because he's quality.
I quickly found out that Shane was very good with people and his social skills were great. He always makes me laugh. He wanted to do some gardening and also he wanted to help people, which is why he did some volunteering at the community gardens. I increase a person's confidence by focusing on what strengths they do have, because I believe if you focus on things that interest someone, you're likely to get the best out of them.
I have the confidence to actually do something now in my life.
I'm proud that I've enabled someone to be able to do those things that they wouldn't necessarily be able to do before or believe that they could do. And I think that sums up what the Knots Enabling Service is about. We've changed someone's life for the better and actually made him more independent.
My passion is basically birds of prey. The best of all are my peregrines. everything you've got is all based on a bond. If you haven't got that bond, you haven't got anything worth having. When I got told that I'd got dementia, I was told that it would gradually get worse, so it meant I had to get rid of my car. I got rid of quite a few of my Falcons, what have you. Hardly anybody ever rings me up about Falcons at all, see. You can't expect it to go on forever, but anyway, it's finished with now. Mary and myself do everything that we can. We help one another. So we've said at times we'll have to have some help.
As an occupational therapist, I try to promote a person's independence. I always start off with a person-centred approach because we just want the best for the person. So I think that's quite a good thing as a therapist, to work in a team that do actually promote that. When George initially came home from hospital, he did state that outdoor mobility was one of his goals.
I'd been in the house for a long time and I was quite pleased to be able to get out and have a walk. I says, I haven't been out for weeks.
From the very young age, when I was a child, I used to idealize my father. He was very fit and athletic, and he was a police officer, so he used to do exercise every day. I used to think, oh, one day I'm going to be like him. So keeping myself healthy and fit, that meant a lot for me. I contacted Nottinghamshire County Council Adult Access Service because it was recommended by my friend.
People normally get in contact by phoning the customer service centre. Information's gathered, then it's passed through to the Adult Access Service, who will then call back, have a conversation and establish the best way to assess somebody. Seema was invited to our clinic. She was very nervous, didn't know anything about equipment, and unfortunately she'd lost confidence trying to access her bathing facility. She stopped taking care of herself because she was scared.
Jane made me feel so valued because she was listening to me, and she was very good in picking where I was struggling, and she just focused on that.
I love my job. Helping people do their everyday living tasks, getting into your bathing facility. We take it for granted every day that, it's easy to do, and seeing someone with a big smile on their face once they've tried a simple piece of equipment that is going to give them that independence to get back is such a big achievement for both that person and for myself.
Without Jane, I would not have known that I can help myself. It changed my whole view of care and how I can make myself independent.
Originally, she was maybe thinking of carers, but with the simple provision of the shower board, it has promoted her independence, made the person happy and their life bearable again.
All my life, I've liked to be with people. I used to work for British Home Stores. I used to be head cashier and, in charge of office there. I think that still rubs off on me here because I have to talk to everybody and interfere. My husband died when we were both 52, he had a heart attack. So I'd always looked after myself. And then I got to a time when all of a sudden it wasn't easy.
We received a referral for Jean. She was at Berry Hill Care Home. She was self-funding her care, and then she went below the threshold. We said, Jean, we're going to give you a choice and control over your well-being and welfare. We want to see what you can do and how we can support you. We need to be creative. We need to think out of the box to say, what will make this person live longer, be more independent.
Once you start encouraging and promoting that independence, you see them starting to do more things for themselves. They've been amazed that there's this sort of facility to come to, because they never wanted really to go into care deep down. They just didn't think there was any other choice. But they've really blossomed, haven't they, and become independent and wanted to be back in the community with the correct support.
Chelsea and Victoria, from the beginning, have really understood me. She talks to me like a person, makes me feel better, because that gives me confidence that I think, oh, you've still got a mind of your own.
The ethos of the short-term independent service fits in really well with being an OT and what our role is all about. We obviously want to help people live the life that they want to live and just to improve their health and well-being.
I really love my job because it has proven that people, they can be re-enabled, they can take control, they can be fully independent. This short-term independent service, that's the way forward.
We are live now, Chair.
Thank you very much, Peter. Good morning, everyone. I'm Councillor Eric Kerry, the Chair of the committee, and I'd like to welcome you all to this meeting of the Nottinghamshire Pension Fund Committee, which is being held remotely, broadcast live and recorded for publication, with the majority of the members joining the meeting from their own homes. I'm very sorry to have to inform the committee that Terry Needham sadly passed away earlier this week after a short illness. It was a real shock. Terry worked in local government from 1961 until his retirement in April 2008. He worked here at Nottinghamshire County Council for 32 years, from January 1976 until his retirement. He finished his career as the Assistant County Treasurer with responsibilities for both the council and for the pension fund. Terry's subsequent involvement with the Pension Fund Committee began in 2012, when he became a member of the new Pensions Subcommittee that had 2 pensioner representatives on it. Terry continued on this committee after the change in structure, and even at the last meeting in March, he was continuing to bring his financial experience to bear on behalf of members, asking detailed questions of our officers and investment managers, and ensuring the work we do continues to put our responsibilities to members of the fund first. Officers in particular have asked me to say how much they valued Terry's involvement, as he always carefully reviewed papers and raised issues or concerns with them to ensure that the information presented to the committee was clear and concise. I've only known Terry for 4 years, and I found him a wonderful gentleman, very knowledgeable and very helpful to me in chair, and I'm sure it was the same to the other members and to our vice chair. I'm sure you'll all join me in sending our condolences to Terry's family and friends, and if anybody wants to send a card, I'm sure that Peter Barker, our officer, would be able to give the address for you to enable you to do that. If anybody would like to say a few words, please indicate now. Mike.
Thanks, Chairman. There's no question that Terry was an integral part of this committee, yeah. And you know, I spoke to him many times outside of this committee for guidance, because he's seen things in the light that astounded me sometimes, and his questioning was very simple, but so meaningful, and every time I asked a question, there was a value in what he was asking. And that I found incredible, to be honest. I didn't realise he'd worked for the council at the times that he'd had. So I think we should be humbled to have had Terry with us for such a long time, and recognise what just a lovely man he was, because he was just a lovely, genuine man, and I personally shall miss him. I'm sure the committee will miss him, and I for one would gladly like to see a card go from the committee itself,
yes,
in recognition for his time. So,
I will be doing that, Mike. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your kind words. Thank you very much. I don't see any other indications. So, as well as myself, the other members present in the meeting today are Councillor Stephen Garner, the Vice Chairman, Councillor Reg Adair, Councillor Chris Barnfather, Councillor Tom Hollis, Councillor Mike Pringle, Councillor Francis Perdue-Horan, Councillor Paris Imbiridis, Councillor Graham Chapman, Councillor Anne Peach, Councillor David Lloyd, Mr Chris King, and Alan Woodward. The Independent Advisory Committee is also present, Mr. William Bourne. We have the following officers present today. Group Manager Finance, Strategy and Compliance, Keith Palfreman. Group Manager Business Support Centre and Employee Support Centre, Sarah Stevenson. Senior Finance Business Partner, Tamsin Rabbits. Investments Officer, Kieran Guilford. And the Clerk to the meeting, Peter Barker. Today's meeting will be held in line with the new requirements of the Coronavirus Act 2020. Please bear with us if we experience any technical issues. If we do lose any members from call temporarily, then officers will seek to assist in getting them reconnected as soon as possible, hopefully without the need to halt proceedings. Officers will inform the meeting if they're unable to rectify the problem and if we need the meeting to be paused or adjourned temporarily. Could I ask all those at the meeting please mute their microphones unless they're speaking? And it looks like most have done so. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item number 1, the minutes of the last meeting. Can I ask the committee if the minutes can be agreed, please? Any other indications? Thank you very much. I see that's in agreement. Item number 2, apologies for absence. I'll ask the Peter to list the apologies, please.
Thank you, Chair. We have had apologies from Councillor Place, Councillor Moore, Councillor Webster and Mrs Sue Reader. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 3, declarations of interest. A, do members or officers present have any disclosable pecuniary interests to declare? I don't see any. On B, do any members or officers present have any private interest, pecuniary or non-pecuniary, to declare? I take that as a no, thank you. Item number 4 is proxy voting. Can I invite Kieran Guilford to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just let me bring up the proxy voting report. This is the usual proxy voting report that I bring to Pension Fund Committee. This one is 2 quarters for the price of 1 because it covers September to December and December to March, I believe. Yes. Sorry, no, the 2 quarters to December, so starting back in July. There's a little bit more detail in this one than has previously been contained in this report, showing the number of meetings that Hermes EOS attend on behalf of the fund, and it looks like it's averaging about 330 meetings a quarter. And at some of those meetings, about half of them, it looks like they oppose the management resolution, at least one management resolution, which, well, I suppose which shows that they're doing the job and following the voting guidelines that LGPS Central have laid down, and which the Nottinghamshire Pension Fund has also adopted. Yeah. So the report just says that the more detailed, lengthy list of meetings is now available on the Pension Fund website if members would like to refer to that. That's it. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Kieran, for that overview. Yes, important that we are showing all that information on the website about that engagement. That's really good. Would have been surprised to see the March report coming in so quickly to an April meeting. If you can do that in future, we'd be happy to see it. That's very good. Okay, so I'll formally move the recommendation on page 8 of the agenda pack. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that and reserve the right.
Thank you very much. So I'll open that for, do members have any comments, questions, please? Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, I haven't used the reference points in point 7. I haven't had a chance to have a look. In fact, I tried to a minute ago and it's not opening up. But I did a couple of months ago because I was sad enough to have enough time to have a look, and I was impressed by the amount of activity going on. What I think would be useful, though, for the report of the committee is if we categorised what they were voting against or what they were opposing. So there must be different categories. For example, is it directors' remuneration, or is it their investment policy? And I don't think we're going to get in detail because there's so much activity. But if we could just get some, if the report that comes to committee could contain a synopsis of those areas we are voting against, it would give some idea that. Sorry about this. It would give some idea whether the degree to which our policies were being pursued and what direction. So
Okay.
I'm just wondering whether we couldn't get a proper synopsis and categorisation.
Thank you for that, Graham. Yes, a very good point. I'm sure we can take a look to see if that can be, and just at a very top, at a very top level, that the chairman of the next committee in June can have a look before we get there. So thank you very much.
Helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, please? I don't see any more raised hands, so let's move to the vote. Can members indicate their approval?
Sorry, Chair.
Sorry. Oh, Anne. Sorry, did you?
Just a point of order. I mean, I've tried that link and can't
Yeah.
get through. So can we find the right link?
We'll check it.
Thank you.
We'll check it, and we'll email members if it is wrong. But I'm sure I've looked at it and it worked for me. So unless it's broken or something, I don't know. So
as a matter of interest, I have received emails in the last day or so indicating that the pension fund website it's been shifted to some part of the cloud and some links are no longer working. So I think it's been fixed. But maybe the links have changed that are actually in the report that members can see. So I could I might need to check those and email out new links.
We need to make sure that the website works. It's a very important part of our communication. So can somebody do that, please, as a matter of urgency?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So can members indicate their approval report, please? Thank you very much. Can I just check there are no abstentions or votes against?
I vote against, Mr. Chairman. Councillor Hollis.
Okay, thank you. The recommendation is carried. Thank you. Moving on to item number 5, the Local Authority Pension Fund Forum. LAP Business Meeting. Kieran again, can I invite you to introduce the report?
Thank you, Chair. This is the report covering the 2 business meetings held by the Local Authority Pension Fund Forum in October last year and January this year. The report covers some of the items discussed at those meetings as part of the engagement with the companies that pension funds are collectively invested in. One topic that came up in October was the notion of just transition, which I've summarised in the report as the transition to a greener, more sustainable economy, but without causing too much disruption to the communities that rely on the traditional carbon-driven economy. So that's basically consulting on moving to a zero carbon economy on a much wider basis than has traditionally been the case. It's not just a case of relying on industry to cut carbon and let the cards fall where they might. They have to plan it a bit more with a bit more long-term planning than that on its wider implications. Paragraph 6 shows how the meeting covered how COVID could be discussed as part of ESG issues, working practices which some companies employ could, lead to higher spread of viruses in future. These things will now be brought up at engagement meetings that LAP engages in. And there was also a presentation on the issues of engagement of fixed income investments, which basically bonds, which currently doesn't take place. And LAP were trying to work out whether that can be a future channel for engagement. Currently engages on the equity holdings, but not fixed income holdings. So they're trying to widen the scope for engagement there. The papers for these two meetings can be found on the website. Bearing in mind the comment I previously made, it might not be the link from the Notts Pension Fund website to LAP may or may not be working at the moment. In the last 24 hours, that might have become a problem. But the link to LAP should still work if people want to look at the quarterly engagement reports that they publish on their own website. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Kieran. I'll formally move recommendations on page 12 of the agenda pack. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that and reserve the right to speak.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Interesting comment on just transition, Kieran. I've attended the all-party parliamentary group meetings on just transition. You can also search that on the internet, and I'm sure you'll find some interesting stuff. I'll open the floor for debate, please. Do any members have any questions or comments? Mike Pringbus. Yes, Mike.
Thanks, Chairman. Just following on from Carmen Nuzzo's report, which I was unable to see the full amount of, to be honest, and certainly the power of information that LAP holds with us, or with all pension funds. I'd like a new or regular update from them in regard to the responsible investments, such as what was spoken about by Nuzzo. And I'm not asking for continued detail, but I think there's no question that information will flow through the LAP probably at a faster rate than we'll receive it at some point, I would have thought, or perhaps through our central pension fund and LAP together. It would be nice to make sure that we're both on the same page, because I think we've discussed that previously, and you know, we would like to see a response from that, just to keep us updated as to exactly where we're going. And I think Carmen as well has introduced a couple of things certainly different to what I'd seen previously. So that sort of direction I think we should all be made aware of. So an update from Mark into the responsible investment is what I'm asking for, if that's a possibility at all, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Mike. I mean, we do have our risk management element, which takes in all kinds of things, and that feeds into it. And we do get regular reports of the LAP work. So, and in fact, I think we were all invited to a LAP forum recently, and I'm not sure how many members were able to get involved at that stage. But yes, we will always continue to do that.
Chairman, if I can, I appreciate that, and I don't think what I'm asking for is out of the ordinary. No. It's just an update from somebody who information and holds a lot more information than I do personally within my papers or within my on my computer, and I think that, you know, we should be open and transparent with the information sharing, and not expect people to troll through. If somebody knows something, then share it. You know, that's all I'm asking, to be honest.
And I believe we do that very well. Thank you, Mike. Any other questions, comments, please? Parry, did you have your hand raised?
Yeah. Thanks, Chair. Chair, reading the papers on paragraph 8, how much money the Nottinghamshire Pension Fund have invested, if any, in the Anglo-Australian multinational company Rio Tinto?
I don't have the answer to that. Maybe, I don't know if officers have it, but we can get that for you, Parry.
Thank you.
Tamsin?
Yeah, just to say we can check that and respond.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments, please? I don't see any hands raised, so I'll move to the vote then, please. Can you indicate approval of the recommendation? Thank you very much. May I ask if there are any abstentions or votes against?
Against, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So that is carried. Moving on to item number 6, Treasury Management Outturn. Kieran, again, your report. Could you introduce it, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is the first time that this report has been received by a pension fund committee. Previously, it has been part of the overall council's treasury management outturn report that's gone to full council. But starting in 2021, that responsibility for looking at treasury management was delegated to the Pension Fund Committee. There's two items to highlight really in this report. The first is can be seen, it's the third bullet point in paragraph 5. It just shows you that we're living in a very low interest rate era on our cash investments. This is the cash that we have, if you like, in between proper, more long-term pension fund investments in the equities, bonds, and property investments that the fund has. On its cash investments, you can get very little by placing your cash in banks and money market funds. And on average, over the year, we earned 0.09% on our cash balances, compared with effectively a zero average 7-day LIBID rate. Effectively, because if you actually calculate it, it's actually negative, but it can't really be a negative LIBID, so we round it to zero. The other point to make is that our year-end balances, as can be seen, 31st of March 2021 in the table 8, were 209 million, and table 2 in the paragraph below it gives you an idea of what we hold the cash for, really. I mean, a number of investment managers have cash requirements that can be drawn down at various times. So the one at the top of the list in table 2, Schroders, we kind of hold the cash that they use. They can draw it down at any time, giving us no notice, because they use it for buying and selling equities on a daily basis. 33.9 million, and then going further down the list, there are other commitments that we have depending on the nature of the investments that we have. So Aberdeen will require cash for property purchases in the forthcoming months, as and when they arise. We estimate that to be about 60 million that they could ask us for at fairly short notice. And our private equity commitments and infrastructure commitments are a bit more sizable, adding up to, what's that, about 150-ish million, and they can be called upon at any time, really, from the next few days to maybe 2 or 3 years hence, depending on how lumpy the private equity and infrastructure fund managers' investments are. So we hold some of that cash in readiness for these drawdowns as and when we get asked for them. The rest of the information is relatively bland. It's a very short report that on cash, particularly cash. It's not a particularly exciting area for investment. You just have to be careful where you put your money and make sure you're ready to pay the bills as and when they fall due. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Kieran. I mean, the key point is that the 0.9% is better than the market, which is a good thing. The other issue is the amount of cash. As far as we can see, that there's cash there ready and waiting to be used for purposes of investment that fall through from our asset allocation, from our investment strategy, etc. So as long as that's the reason for it, that's a reasonable thing to approve, I would think. So I'll formally move the recommendation on page 19. Can I have a seconder, please?
And I'll second that and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you very much. I'll open it up now for questions and comments from members, please. Mike.
Thanks, Chair. And just a comment to say that I think this is a has proved itself already in understanding that it comes to the Pensions Committee, and again as a show of openness and transparency within the committee itself. So I welcome the report.
Thank you. Councillor Chapman?
Yeah, thanks. I really do understand the problems of managing this fund. I understand that interest rates are historically low. I understand that you need an enormous amount of flexibility. It still is. I'm still surprised at how low the rate of return we're getting on the funding, and there's the substantial amounts, and so it may be totally justifiable. I'm sure it is. What I would like to see is some industry comparators, see what other pension funds are getting for theirs. Right. I think that will be helpful, and it would give us some indicator of how we're doing. So if that's possible, I'd be very grateful if we could arrange. I'm sure it is arrangeable without a great deal of effort.
Okay, Tamsin, would you like to come back in on that one, please?
Yes, I will certainly look at talking to some of our partner funds to see what returns they're getting, but I would anticipate they will be very similar.
Yeah, well, and that would be reassuring. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they have exactly the same regulatory duties that we have, and they should be providing it. So that point taken. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, please? No, I don't see any. So the recommendation has been moved and seconded. So we move to the vote, please. All those in favour? Okay, thank you very much. Can I ask if there are any abstentions or votes against, please?
Against, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That recommendation is carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 7. It's the Climate Action Plan Progress Report. Tamsin, would you like to introduce the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Members are aware that the Pension Fund received the first climate risk report in September last year. This climate risk report was issued to the Nottinghamshire Pension Fund with a number of recommendations which have become the Fund's Climate Action Plan, which was approved in October. Members requested a progress report after 6 months, which is included in this report. Not all the actions in the action plan were due within these 6 months, but all those which were have been completed in line with the plan. The report also includes information about the progress which has been made to the date of the report. While this work is ongoing, the Pension Fund will continue to implement its long-term strategic asset allocation. This includes an increasing allocation to infrastructure investments, a significant proportion of which are in clean energy, and a gradual reduction in equity investments. I am pleased to report the recent launch of the LGPS Central Infrastructure Fund, with the first 25 million of the fund committed to a renewable energy investment. LGPS Central are also making progress on the development of their Sustainable Equity Fund. Over time, our exposure to fossil fuels is likely to reduce as a result of these asset allocation and diversification decisions. The pension fund will continue to monitor and manage all financially material risks to which it's exposed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Tamsin. I'll formally move the recommendations on page 28 of the agenda pack. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that and reserve the right to speak.
To get rid of a call, sorry. Okay, apologies for that. I got a council message coming up. Okay, so I'll now open it up to the floor for debate. Tom, I think your hand's raised.
Thank you, Chairman. And firstly, I can't go without saying that I welcome the report, and I welcome the fact that the committee is finally talking seriously about the environment. But unfortunately, this piece of paper is no better than a healthy menu at the pizza shop. It's not worth the paper it's written on, and frankly, it's just a token gesture to what seriously needs to be done about what is a climate emergency, Mr. Chairman. And at the end of the day, we're a pension fund, not an environmentalist group or anything. But for financial reasons, it makes sense to make investments into the environment. and morally it makes sense to invest in green and sustainable energy, not only for our pension fund members, but their families, children, and also members of the City Council, Fire Authority, Police, and the districts and boroughs of which we manage their resource on behalf of. And members will note that I've not chosen to speak at today's meeting because, frankly, I feel like the Conservative and Mansfield Independent Group, it just falls on deaf ears. I've taken consistent stands about how I feel about this pension funds, management of our funds, and the so-called independent advice we receive as for it. I am firmly against it. However, I will say that I really do welcome the fact that clearly Councillor Pringle and the Labour City Group and my orientations, which aren't always the same, and I wouldn't try and say that we have the same view, but we certainly have a similar path where we'd like to end up. It's clear that this committee has actually listened to us because we're talking about it, and it's one step further. And I'll tell you something, when this next county council elections finish and this committee looks completely different and almost certainly with new leadership, I seriously hope that the committee will then put some fire under the pan that's now been put onto this agenda and really start moving with it. And no offence to Tamsin, she's a fantastic officer, but I really hope the shackles are then being able to taken off people like her and Mr. Bourne as well. And frankly, we're able to have some serious, a different look, maybe with some different glasses, different perspective, whatever way you want to coin it. But I can't support this. I'll choose not to oppose this one, and I'll be abstaining on this because I genuinely think we've moved in the right direction. But it's like learning for a swimming lesson, Mr. Chairman, and just putting your toe in the water. We need to get in and actually take it seriously. But you've enjoyed far too many analogies for one day there. But I hope all the committee enjoyed them. But no, on a serious note, I am concerned about it, and I'm genuinely trying to take a non-partisan view on this, but I just can't support anything this committee is doing currently. It just doesn't suit me in any way, shape or form. But thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much, Tom. We know about the history of this. It's patently, in my opinion, a very political move by you next to a county council election, and that's probably the most non-partisan comment I've ever heard in my life. But anyway, we'll move on. Councillor Chapman.
Thanks. Sorry, I was quite enjoying that. I shouldn't be, should I? Look, what I've been looking for, I think, is I've caught and welcome this. A load of energy gone into it, and a load of effort. And what I would be looking for is somewhere where we can properly track progress in some quantitative way, right? And it's comprehensible to people like us. Now, I know we'll get loads and loads of metrics, right? And the danger with metrics is wood and trees. And you never see the wood, you see all the trees, and you never stick them together. And what I would be looking for, and it covers also the next report, which I also welcome, because there's some attempt in the next report to hone down on 8 companies, which is very, very sensible, is some quantification. So it would tell us at the end of the year how much has shifted from areas we don't want to invest in, right? But also what the financial consequences are, because we're not here as a charity, we're here to manage funds. So you need the financial consequences of every decision. So how much has shifted? How much have we invested in those areas we wish to invest in? And what are the financial consequences? Right? And how much have we yet to, what are our targets for the future? What's left to be done, both in terms of disinvestment and investment? So we can get some clarity that we can understand. So it's all to do with presentation and pinning down in quantitative terms where we are, what we've done, and where we're going. And I just would ask Tamsin, and I know it's ever so difficult because life is not simple, right, in any way. Is that too simplistic a request, right? Is it possible to achieve? And if not, how do we get at least some approximation to it? Because we need to.
Just to say that, yes, thank you for that. I noted Councillor Chapman's comments at the last meeting, and I've made a note that when we do our next quarterly reporting to include a bit more information. We can certainly include some more on the movements of which sectors we're invested in. Something about the financial consequences is much harder, so I can't make any promises on that one. I will have a think about what we may or may not be able to report. And yes, looking at our targets where we're moving to invest more in certain places. I think a lot of that's there, but I could possibly put it into a more helpful form.
And it will be in one place, so we can look at it. Yeah.
As part of our quarterly investment return reports, yes.
That is a very helpful response. Thank you.
And no doubt working groups as well in terms of our investment strategies. Thank you. Mike Pringle.
Well, I'm over the blooming moon, Chairman, to be quite honest, to see this report here. I think it's fantastic. And it's exactly what, all right, there might have been a voice that we had scrutiny and debate over, but I think the committee in itself recognised the importance of this and the fact that we're moving forward. So well done. I think the investment of 25 million from Central again is something that we should applaud. So yeah, it's not moving fast enough. We'd all love to see a magic wand and everything be changed tomorrow without anybody losing any money. That isn't going to happen. We're going to have to work at this. But this, I really do welcome this report. But I will, as I'm sure you'll be aware, challenging for speed as we progress. So well done, Tamsin. Well done, everybody. I think we all should have a pat on the back. Tom, you included. I think you should have a pat on the back. This report is something that we can move forward, and I think it's something that we should include for the future as responding to anything that comes up. The format is laid out here for us now to advance pension funds in a different way and keep a check of it, as Graham says, have some monitoring of it. Works perfectly. So I'm confidently happy at the progress made so far.
Thank you, Mike, for your pragmatic comments. Parry, I think you had your hand up.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with my colleagues, whatever Johanna said about the climate issues. But I wonder when the Pension Fund Committee in Nottinghamshire will make a real decision on climate issues. Thank you, Chair.
I think we're doing that, Parry, but Tamsin, would you like to comment on terms of the process and what we're doing, the work behind all this?
Yes, I think it's probably it's a journey rather than a any one individual thing. Yeah. And I think we're making good progress.
Yeah, it's very complicated and we have to do it in a managed way, I think is the right way to go forward, Parry. Thanks for your comments. Tom, I have your hand up. Is it political or is it something else you have to say?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I think it was a legacy hand, but I would remind you that everything we say here is political. It's a political committee, Mr. Chairman.
Actually, that's not how it's been for many, many years, Tom. And you're the first person that's changed it.
I might be on a misunderstanding, but we are political people by nature. We're not a public community group. But I think I love how you try and pretend you're not a nasty conservative at every opportunity.
There you go. All right. Thank you very much.
I'll leave it to you. I'll leave it to you. Send your text messages to the Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Tom. And I think if you look at what the Conservative government are doing right now, shows the way forward in our views on climate change. Thank you very much for allowing me to do that. Chris Barnford.
So that's people on low income, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Tom. Councillor Barnfather.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I echo the statements of Councillor Pringle in welcoming the report. It's certainly a step forward. And I think Councillor Chapman's comments as well. I totally agree with Graham that in some sort of measurability in one place, so that we're not fishing around in multitudes of documents and in the dark, to be able to answer some of the questions and queries from our constituents, and obviously to satisfy ourselves. Just one observation about this historically apolitical committee is, can Councillor Pringle and Councillor Hollis get their act together? Because the future Labash coalition is falling apart at the seams in very early stage here, with one person being very enthusiastic and one being less than enthusiastic, to say the least. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, I don't see any more hands raised. So
no comment, Chairman.
I'm sure you don't need to, Mike. So can we move to the vote, please? All those in favour of the recommendation? Thank you very much. I need to ask if there are any abstentions. I don't hear any abstentions. Any of those against, please? Okay, the recommendation is carried. Thank you. Moving on to our, item number 8, the Climate Stewardship Plan report. Tamsin.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Did my vote get logged as an abstain there?
I didn't hear you, so we'll log it as an abstention, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Tamsin, item number 8, Climate Stewardship Plan report. Please introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. As part of the Fund's Climate Action Plan, the Pension Fund agreed to develop a climate stewardship plan. This document's objective is to explain the Fund's approach to addressing the risks and opportunities related to climate change. This document is consistent with the final recommendations of the Task Force on Climate-related Financial Disclosures. The Climate Stewardship Plan identifies the areas in which stewardship techniques can be leveraged to further understand and manage climate-related risks within the Fund. The Climate Stewardship Plan focuses on engagements with 8 specific companies and on the monitoring of the investment process of the principal investment managers, both of which were identified through the climate risk analysis. The Climate Stewardship Plan sets stewardship objectives over several years, and the Fund will report on progress annually during the annual refresh of the carbon risk metrics. At each report, the focus list of investee companies and fund managers will be reviewed and amended if required. The creation of a climate strategy is just one, the creation of the Climate Stewardship Plan is just one part of the work the Pension Fund is doing to mitigate the financial risk of climate change as described in the previous report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Tamsin. Councillor, I formally move the recommendation on page 32. Can I have a seconder, please? May I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that and reserve the right to speak.
Thank you. I'll now open the floor for debate. Do any members have any questions or comments? I think your hand is raised, Councillor Chapman.
Yeah, I very much welcome this, because what it is doing is homing down on something really, really specific that's manageable and reportable and doable. So very, very good, and coming through surprisingly quickly. I partly echo Mike's enthusiasm. The only question is, which 8 firms are they? I mean, there's no reason why we shouldn't be transparent about it. Or is there a reason why we shouldn't be transparent about it? Thanks.
Do you want to come back on that, Tamsin?
Yeah, I had this conversation with LGPS Central at length because I felt we should be publishing the names. Those names are available to the committee because they're the companies that were identified in the climate risk report, which is the full climate risk report, which has been shared. LGPS Central felt that they have much better engagement from the companies where they can discuss things without everything going into the public domain. So at this stage, I decided that we should be accepting their recommendations. At the point at which we come to look at the progress and the results of the engagement with those individual companies, we can look at this issue again.
Thank you, Tamsin. Mike Pringle.
Yeah, just to echo again my enthusiasm for this report as of the last. I think the stewardship is a step forward for us. There's no question about that, in being able to put statements across. Again, the governance of who we're dealing with, I think, which is what Graham's pulled out, is something which certainly we need to be aware of. And not only the governments, but the effect that we can have on these companies. I think that's something that will, and I think that will grow. I think the knowledge of what we can do in the debate will grow as we scrutinise and discuss and debate with them and bring information from them back to us. So I welcome this as a first report. I think it's a huge step forward. So well done again, Tamsin, and everybody else involved. And I'm sure that the last two papers have certainly set some solid groundworks to move forward in a positive way for the committee. Thank you all.
Graham, you want to come back quickly on something
Yeah,
there?
if you don't mind. I just wonder whether on a confidential basis you'd be willing to circulate we can probably guess them, right? I can probably give you at least 4 or 5 of those companies. And if they're not on there, then there should be. But could you do it on a confidential basis, providing every one of us, Tom, agrees that we keep it confidential?
I mean, I think, can we leave this until the next committee? Let it run and make a decision for the next committee on that, please.
All right, I'll go with that.
Thank you. Parry, you were next, please.
Thanks.
Sorry,
Thanks.
just one moment, Parry. Sorry, Tamsin, did you want to come back on that?
I was just going to make the observation that the climate risk analysis report, which was a confidential report that Central prepared for us, has been circulated to all of the committee.
Yes.
And those list of companies is within that report.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Parry, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks. I welcome this report. I think at least we move some way towards, the right direction. Somebody listened about our issues and our thoughts over the years, and I'm sure we'll move in the right direction. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Parry. Chris Barnfather.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Like others before me, I welcome the report. I think we are moving forward, and it may not be at a speed that satisfies all members, but I think we've made some huge leaps in the last couple of years in the way in which we're addressing this. And just in relation to the eight companies, engagement is the first step. If engagement fails, you move to name and shame, and if name and shame fails, you move to flogging publicly. At the moment we're at the engagement stage, and I think that's the way it should be kept.
Thank you very much, Chris. William?
Yeah, just a very quick comment. I thought it might be helpful just to give a sense of where other funds are. And this fund is not yet at the leading edge on this issue, but we're a long way ahead of many funds, particularly the kind of smaller and sharp funds with fewer resources. And really our big issue is lack of resources, and that's where the pool has been quite helpful.
Yeah. Thank you, William. And it's very important to remember that we've got here because of the work that was done on the climate risk analysis of LGPS Central, and the way that we had to have time to get really into the detail to be able to come out with something that would be meaningful. I think that's very important. Tom, your hand's raised.
Thank you, Jay. And actually, I agree with Councillor Barnfather. It's fairly obvious that myself and I imagine the other members aren't exactly enthused with the speed of this report, but it is moving in the right direction, and it's good to see it. So I certainly can welcome it in that, but obviously really my comments are very similar to the last report, so I won't repeat them. So I'll abstain in good faith again, but I think it's good to see we are talking about it, but I think it's one more final analogy. We've asked for 100, you wanted 0, and I think we've moved to 2, and I think you feel like it's done and dusted, and we've still got a hell of a long way to go, and frankly it's just moving far too slow. For something that we do need to act on swiftly. But that being said, we're talking about it, and Councillor Barnfather probably said it as good as I could in the fact that we've got something here that we can agree. The only thing that I with respect, I'd like to pull Councillor Chapman up on. I've been a member of authority for about a week short now of 10 years as a local councillor, and I've never once released private-public documents. So I think it's inappropriate to suggest I would. So I'm sure I didn't mean it that way, but I certainly didn't want to be associated with that. But no, other than that, Mr. Chairman, I will be abstaining on this, and frankly, I welcome the fact that we are moving finally talking about it, as I've said. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, I don't see any more hands raised. Can we move to the vote, please? All those in favour of the recommendation? Okay, thank you. I need to ask if there are any abstentions.
Abstain.
Thank you. Or any against? No. That's carried. So we're moving now on to the work programme and item number 9. Keith Palfreman, I believe you're introducing this report.
Thank you, Chair. In the appendix, you can see the work programme for the rest of the committee meetings of the current cycle. And just to mention that the way we communicate and present information has been mentioned in relation to a number of reports. We've been working with corporate communications team to identify a resource to specifically assist the pension fund. This resource will look at the way we communicate information about the fund, and it will include a refresh of the pension fund website, and details of this work will be presented to a future committee. And the committee is asked to identify any additional reports required. Thank you, Chair.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Keith. I'll formally move the recommendation on page 40. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that and reserve the right.
Thank you very much. And I'll open the floor for debate. Any members wish to comment, please? Tom. Is that a legacy, Tom?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to take it down.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move to, sorry, Anne.
At some stage, are you going to be organising some of the working group meetings?
Whoever will be on chair and vice chair with the team of officers, etc., will be doing all that in the future. Yes, we will. Okay, absolutely. Chris Barnfather.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Obviously, this is the final meeting of this committee, of this administration. I just wanted to express my appreciation for the way in which you have chaired this committee for the last 4 years. You've actually chaired a committee that, prior probably to this last 4 years, was always deemed to be a nice committee to chair, an apolitical committee. We never fell out. We really needed to take a vote on things. And can I say, categorically, I'm not having a pop at any individual member of this committee when I'm saying these words, but you've actually had to chair a committee at a time of evolution in the world, of great change in the world in terms of how the way in which this committee operates, the way in which we manage our assets is impacted or has an impact on the outside world to a far greater way. And obviously climate change is the classic example of that. And you've had a difficult 4 years of chairing this committee because it has been contentious on occasions. You've had to deal with members of the public expressing their valid opinions in the chamber in all sorts of ways, as well as obviously responding to huge amounts of correspondence from members of the pension fund, past and present, expressing their own personal views. So I would just personally like to thank you, because I've been impressed with the way in which you've chaired this committee. Whatever happens after the 6th of May, whoever is the administration, whoever may or may not be a member of this committee or chairing this committee, there is no detracting from the professional manner in which you've conducted yourself over the last 4 years, and I thank you.
That's very kind, Chris. Thank you very much. Councillor Pringle, Mike.
Well, I can't beat that, Chairman, can I? I'm not sure how big the medal is, but I can't beat that. But I would like to thank all the members for participating at a time when change was inevitable, and so many times we were probably on a hard into nothing, to be quite honest. And the scrutiny within debate, I applaud that. I think the committee itself has moved forward with what has been put forward today, and the public can see that we're moving forward. Yes, there'll be a question of speed, we all understand that, but there'll be a question of professionalism, which I think has been kept throughout this, certainly by the vast majority of people. So, well done, Eric. I think it was a difficult time to chair any committee. I think anybody that takes over is still going to face that difficult time, whoever it is, and probably from Tom's support of Chris previously, it might even be a Connacht party that lead on with. Well done, everyone. And I would like to say sincerely rest in peace, Terry, because it will sadly be missed.
Thank you for those kind words, Mike. Parry, please.
My words, Mr. Chairman, is simple. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Parry. Councillor Chapman, Graham. You're muted, Graham.
Yeah, this is going to get tedious. I got to say, I really enjoyed this committee. I never expected to. I thought it'd be as dry as a desert, but it has actually been quite interesting. And thank you, Tom, for your contributions. You've kept us on our toes. But I do think, Eric, you have managed it extremely well. From the point of view of the city, we are second-class members of this committee, but you've never treated us as second class. You've always given us a status. And my plea is, I mean, it's a bit of a backhanded one, is that for the new committee, I'd rather like us to be first-class members. And so we will be approaching whoever's in charge, and it may well be you, Eric, right? You never know. It may well be, well, we don't know. But we would want our status increased. I think it's perfectly reasonable given the amount of money that the City Council puts into the fund. Having said that, I think you've always been courteous. You've treated us, again, very, very well indeed, and you have never given us second-class status. And I've always found you extremely responsive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Graham. A pleasure. Tom.
Thank you, Chair. And I think really it's nice to round off, and I think it's really good that we've ended on these comments that we've just had. But really, not to make the committee feel uncomfortable again. But I fully agree with what Chris and Mike said. Actually, I mean, I know, Chairman, you and I probably are at one end of the spectrum each of how we'd have run this committee. But you've always given me the fair chance to say what I say, even though it's fairly clear that you disagree with virtually everything and every statement I make. But I think, credit to you, you've always given me and the Labour group, to my knowledge, the fair treatment that I think is right of any chairman. But we don't take it for granted, and there's certainly other chairmen that haven't behaved that way in this council. But I think the final comments as well is just to kind of agree with Graham, and probably to take it a step further. It does seem slightly bizarre that the county council have the full decision-making say, if not the only voice on the committee, and both the city and districts and boroughs, who all pay in, and the police and the fire authority, yet aren't represented in the same way. So it's certainly, probably with the evolution that Councillor Barfather spoke about, there's probably a lot of internal evolution that probably needs to take place with our decision-making. But again, that's probably a decision-making for another day. But just to round it off, I'm very thankful for this committee. I think Councillor Chapman said it well as well, that it's certainly been a more entertaining committee than most, but it's been down to good debate, and the fact that we all disagree and we've been able to be civil about it the majority of the time, it's credit to everybody, really. So, but I round it off, and I'm looking forward to meeting again in person in June.
Thank you very much, Tom. And just to say, I'm not sure if where we stand on these things is actually that far apart. It's about how we move forward. Anne, please.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. I'd just like to echo what Graham said, that I know we used to have voting rights, and I'm sure, I feel that we do make a contribution to the committee, and yeah, it would be nice to lobby for voting rights. I feel that the committee is moving in the right direction, and yeah, thanks for steering us through that, Eric. So yeah, we're on a journey. It's not as fast as I'd like to see, but you know, we've got to be careful, because we're looking after all the fund members' futures, basically. So we've got to be temperate with caution. But and lastly, yes, Terry will be a sad loss. He was a nice man. But thank you for that.
Absolutely, Anne. Thank you. Mike, did you want to? Your hand is that legacy?
All right. No, sorry, Chairman. If I can, just remiss of me, really foolishly, just to recognise the efforts of Councillor Simbratis on this pension committee, and thank him from his guidance. From my point of view, is a tremendous supporter of the pensions committee and always gives it 100%. So we'll miss you, Parry.
Thank you very much, Mike. And I must say that I've been absolutely honoured to be chairman of this committee.
Thank you very much.
It hasn't been easy. Parry, and you stole my thunder, Mike. I was going to say the same words to Parry, and I do wish you well and have a great future, Parry. It's been a pleasure working with you and your contribution. So, and I'd also like to thank all the members for their work and their contributions to the work we have done in the last 4 years, and also officers and staff for their work, their help to all of us, and to to me in supporting me, and I'm not going to bring any names into it. I don't think I should do that, but it's been fantastic support over the last 4 years. Thank you. Reg, have you got your hand up? Reg, you there? Yeah.
I was just going to say, I think I'm the eldest now that Parry's gone, as far as the committee's concerned.
Okay, thank you for that bit of inside information.
I could never compete with Parry when we were out drinking red wine. I could never ever compete with him.
Okay, and can I also thank William for his help and guidance too, as our independent advisor. Thank you very much for all your guidance. That's really great. Thanks. Parry, did you want to say a final word?
Yes, please, Chair. Yes, over welcome and welcome so seriously on bottom of my heart, and nice to know all of you. I will miss you greatly. I wish you very success, all of you, for the elections and the committee and the rest of it. So all the best for all of you, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Parry. I hope you enjoy your retirement. Okay, I think we're finished there, everybody. So thank you very much for the 4 years. Let's hope the next committee is able to do some good stuff, and good luck whoever in your elections. I hope you all do as well as you can. Cheers. Take care. Bye.